It's like that same spirit that they feel there, they see and they feel when they look into your eyes. So don't underestimate the impact that you have and the spirit that you carry, even when you don't have any words to go along with it.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode. On behalf of Disciple City, I'm Todd Carlton, and this is the Toddcast. Friends, I can't do this all alone, so just to start off, I just want to say special thanks to our staff, executive producer Caden Carlton, and Toddcast Media Relations Sheila Juti. Guys, follow us along on YouTube, subscribe, hit that notification bell to find out about the latest episodes. We're on 18 different streaming platforms, so share with your friends and get the message out there. You can check out our website at disciplecity.ca to find out exactly more about what we do. We have a free video series in there and lots of resources for you. And don't forget to check out the Toddcast website at thetoddcast.ca. There's a direct link in there to our latest episode. And of course, we're on socials, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Friends, we're ripping back down to Australia today for my next guest. She's living in Melbourne, Australia. She was part of Jesus School. She was part of the team that came up here to Canada with the Jesus School and had attended the academy that a former guest, or a previous guest rather, Mark Greenwood, had talked about. And she has worked in the prison system in Australia. She's worked for government, and she is working in the corporate world. Please welcome Grace Walker.
Wow, have you got a little crowd in the background there or something?
We do.
So glad that everyone could join us.
Yeah. G'day, Grace. How you going?
Oh, g'day. I'm good. How are you?
Maybe I'll just stick with that. I won't go big on. I'll just stick with the stuff that I know. You know?
Do you know what? I actually think your Aussie accent's better when you're not saying g'day. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, to be honest. You can't do it unless you immersed in this land.
True. Nobody says that anymore too, I suspect. Okay?
Hey, do you ever just play your intro yourself? Like, you've got some guitars in the background.
I do have some guitars in the background. No, I don't.
Maybe for the next one you just whip out the intro yourself.
What about the drums?
I mean, do you have drums?
There is a drum kit here in the Toddcast studio, yeah.
I'll take it.
There's lots of
guitars.
guitars.
I'll tune in live to watch it, unless it's 3 a.m. Probably. I love you, but I don't know if I'll be doing that.
Well, maybe you need to check out. The intro on YouTube.
What's to say I already haven't?
Well, I don't know, because there's some guitar playing. There's some drums going on in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
give it a go.
Grace, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for coming on. It's good to see you. Looking forward to catching up.
Back at you. I love catching up with an audience of many. But for the moment, it just feels like you and I, and it's been a hot minute, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, amen. Same as.
Same as. That's not it. You can't. Nah. Come on.
No, we know how to well place an as, but truth be told,
I've never heard you well place an as, to be honest.
Well, that's because that's what Adam and I do. We take something,
you take the Mickey,
and we kill it, and just use it wrong, and just because
it's not bad.
It's fun as. So that's why we do it.
Oh, I miss you guys. I need you back in my world.
Grace, I've just, there's so much stuff going on in your life, and you've done, as I said in the intro, so many different things, which are, pretty significant roles and stuff. And so we're really just, interested in hearing how, because since I've known you and talked to you and stuff, your faith is, I'm sure you've had your ups and downs like we all have, but your faith has been so grounded, and you've been in some pretty interesting careers where, that can really put some weight on your faith and stuff like that. So I'd really love to explore all that. But one thing I don't think I know about you from when we've hung out and you were up here for Jesus School, but is like, how did you grow up in Australia? What was your faith life like as a kid and growing up with your family?
Yeah, I mean, was raised by a pack of kangaroos. You wouldn't believe it. Christian kangaroos, loving Christian family. Now, I grew up in country Victoria, so that's like, for those who don't know Oz, like down south. And grew up in a Christian family. My parents really do love the Lord and have loved the Lord for a very long time, as do my grandparents. And so, growing up in the faith was a really rich upbringing. We had many family friends who knew the Lord, loved the Lord. So it was certainly just like the culture we were immersed in. Like when I kind of think of how, Jesus was raised, it sounds like he was raised by a lot of people. Because, that story where he goes missing as a kid for a few days because everyone just thought he was with someone else. That's kind of how my upbringing was in a way. We just had lots of families just lots of parents who loved the Lord feeding into my faith journey. And so I grew up with a lot of kids in the faith as well. So it was just, super, super abundant and super rich. I was very blessed by God. I think ever since I was a kid, I was a pretty weird kid, to be honest. Don't worry, I've grown out of it now. Really normal. But as a kid, I was really passionate, very zealous. I was a little like social justice warrior as a teenager, fighting for everything that was right in my eyes. But I just had a real zeal and a passion for the Lord that I think was just there from the moment I was born. I think God just put his hand on me and was like, yeah, you're mine, and I'm going to put this passion inside of you. So I guess a big part of my journey through growing up and in my adult years has been learning how to steward that passion, because I know that we all know a bunch of passionate people and most of them do our heads in. So it's been a big part of my journey. But God's been good to me. So I have known him all of my life and I just feel so blessed. But it certainly hasn't been a straighty 180 journey. It's taken its turns, but here I am. Like I know him. I know him. I love him. I wouldn't ever know how to do life without him. It's almost like I'm trapped in his love. I couldn't, where else would I go?
Amen. Amen. Would you say that as you grew, was there a definitive time where your faith became your own as opposed to how you grew up with, or was it pretty consistent? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, I didn't have that altar call, raise your hand moment. I mean, no, I think as kids growing up in evangelical circles, I think we all gave our lives to God like 10 times, because there would always be that altar call, like, if you need to come back to the Lord, like raise your hand. And I think it was just kind of like, I did drink the apple juice yesterday and mum said not to. And so I've sinned and I've gone from the Lord and I need to come back. So I've had I responded to those altar calls, but I haven't had that, I haven't had that moment where everything is now different, I just knew him from the start and walked with him, and obviously that doesn't mean I've lived perfect from the start, although I do actually live perfect now. Joking, just to be clear. No, I've not had that specific moment, I would say.
Yeah, which is okay too, which is good, which is...
Well, it's my story.
Well, and it's actually, it's almost better.
100%.
Really, right? Just to consistently know and just be in there instead of going off on something that, later you regret. It's funny because there are no regrets, but sometimes wish my path was different for the things that I've been exposed to now, but then that's what shapes me and all that. But
I don't know what it's like to not know God. I don't know. I don't have that experience under my belt. But I don't want to know what that's like.
Yeah.
That sounds like hell.
Yeah. So you said you were quite, found yourself always been not an activist in the negative way, but just, I can't remember the term that you used, but when you were in school and stuff.
Social justice warrior.
Social justice warrior. Yeah. So was there anything Is that just like a generalization, or was there anything like when you were younger that you really pursued, or sort of positions that you developed into when you were, in those younger years?
Yeah. I mean, I always just had a real heart for the poor, and I guess those who haven't had the opportunities that I've had in life, like living in Australia, living in a working class family, you get a lot of opportunities and great opportunities. And I just really had a heart for those who didn't. So, I mean, from the age of 10, I wanted to be a missionary in Africa, which, by the way, still haven't actually ever been to Africa. But I wanted to, give my whole life to serving the poor and, sharing the gospel with them. So throughout my teenage years in particular, I just found myself getting involved in causes. Like I organised myself and my best friend and our 2 families to go over to Thailand and run some English camps and work in orphanages for a couple of weeks. And that was just kind of the way I was wired. So when I think it was, honestly, I saw this Gods Must Be Crazy movie. I don't know if you've ever seen Gods Must Be Crazy. And I just thought that was my calling. And so I just set my eyes on Botswana and never got there. But in university, I don't know what
we're okay with uni.
Call that. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. If I do say something that's
I'll correct you and
off-piste, let me know.
Yeah, I'll correct you and say it proper.
Thanks. All right.
Because Mark said Winnebago during his interview, and I had to correct that.
What's a Winnebago? Like, as in a
travel trailer?
Van? Not a travel trailer. Oh,
it's a travel trailer.
Let's okay.
Carry on.
Did I say caravan? All right. Okay.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Caravan. No, we don't say that. That's a family carrier van.
All right. So anyway, I went to uni and I studied international development. So I used that passion and I was always going to do a degree in something. So that's what I studied because I wanted to pursue a career in development and helping communities develop, essentially. Underprivileged communities have better opportunities and a better standard of living.
That's awesome. So when you graduated from university, what was the first thing that you went into? When I met you, actually, you were working in the prison system, right? But what did you?
Well, that's what I did. Yeah.
Right out of university?
Well, yeah. I wanted to get an entry-level job out of uni, and So I just got a job as a receptionist in a non-government organisation, and that was an organisation that worked with people in the justice system. So from receptionist, I ended up working in drug and alcohol. From drug and alcohol, I went into becoming a case manager in prison. So I helped prisoners reintegrate from prison back into the community. Also, those guys who were on remand, so haven't been sentenced yet, often they can get let go from court. And so it means that they're out of prison after, between anywhere from a week to 12 months being in prison. They'll just be out on the day with no resources or, plan to successfully reintegrate. So that was my job, was case managing these guys and helping them make a successful transition, which is a really hard thing to do. There weren't many successful transitions. There's a lot of recidivism, a lot of reoffending. But I loved it. And so I did that for a few years. I did it both here in Victoria and I also did it up in Queensland.
So would that be, I don't know what that looks like in Australia, like in Canada, there'd be, we have provinces, so there's sort of provincial prison system, but then there's federal stuff. Is it similar in Australia?
No, we have state-based prisons, so that falls under the jurisdiction of the state government. So in different states, there's different programs, but my clients in Victoria were men and women across every, security rating. Up in Queensland, I worked in maximum security male prisons. So, yeah, it was pretty cruisy, I guess.
So would it be still like... Would you be going to a completely different thing from Victoria to Queensland, or would it still be within the prison system, like a lateral transfer?
So I worked for because I worked for an NGO. They had contracts with governments in both states. There were different programs that I worked in. Say in Victoria, I did like 50% prison work, 50% community work, whereas in Queensland, I actually spent most of my time in the prisons, which was probably my preference, to be honest. Weirdly, this might sound weird to some people, but you actually seem to be a bit safer in a prison environment than you do in a community environment, because you've got the same dude, but in one environment, the dude is being supervised. In another, he's not. And there's a lot more risk factors at play. You've just got to be incredibly vigilant in both. But I think the rubber hits the road properly when you're in the community. So I didn't mind hiding away in the prisons.
So when you were in that, how did the crimes that people commit, how did that affect your faith? Like, how did you look at that? Like, were you just in your whole experience, were you just totally full of compassion for these people, or did it sort of really test your faith of, now being exposed to the things that people actually do and these bad mistakes that people make? What did that look like? How did that play on your faith?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the other thing to mention here is this all happened for me when I was quite young. Like, I started working in prison when I think I was 21, so I was still on my probationary license, picking up prisoners from prison on their release. We have in Australia these things called P plates. I don't know if you guys have it, but essentially you have to display it on your car if you're on your probationary license to let everybody else on the road know you can't drive properly. And so I have to pick these guys up from prison, and I was like, I'm not telling them how young I am. So I never put it up, because I was just like, that's actually going to create more problems for me than if a cop pulls me over. I'll just have to somehow explain my way out of that. So I was quite young, and it was a very, like, when you're 21, they're really formative years, particularly in your faith. And the other thing is, I was in there by the grace of God, and I would not recommend anybody do anything like this unless God has put the grace on you to be there. Like, it might sound cool and badass and all the rest, but it's only by the grace of God that you're going to be protected, and you're going to not wear the emotional weight of some of the offences and some of the behaviours that you're confronted with, because I was confronted with it all. I learnt about offences that I never knew were things that you could do to a person or an animal. And I was also confronted with behaviours towards me that I, would rather not happen. But by the grace of God, it just didn't have that impact and that weight on me. The other thing is, well, actually, what I'll say there is, there came a time where God told me to leave. And I was like, okay, if you're going to tell me to leave, I need to know that I know that you've said this. And so he gave me these confirmations. He gave me 3. I knew it was time to leave. So I put in my notice into work. I had no job to go to, but I just knew it was like a get out thing. I'd had some dreams, I'd had some words, whatever. I put in my notice, and then as soon as I had done that, the grace just lifted off, and all of a sudden these things just started affecting me. I would take it home with me. I would I had a couple of things happen that did like have an emotional toll on me. And not a big deal. I don't wear it to this day, but I did wear it for a little while, and it took a lot of prayer and a lot of working through that with some close Christian people. And so it made me realize, and it was a very good lesson to learn, like, if I'm going to be going anywhere, doing anything in my career or in life, I can't do it out of pride or looking cool. I can only do it by the grace of God. And if he says it, then I know I'm good. I know I'm safe. And I did have many experiences where I had angelic protection and physical protection that I knew was God's hand. But also, like, it is pride to do things outside of the will of God. So I learnt that lesson, thankfully the easy way, but I wouldn't be going in there unless God had given the green light and opened the door. I don't know that I'm going back in for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting how you said that it's safer in a prison dealing with people and stuff that you were doing then in the public, but really at the same time, like you just pointed out too, right? There's still that emotional thing, or there's, even though they maybe can't physically do something, there's leering and looking and things that you would know as a woman that, you know, and stuff. And yeah, it takes a toll. So the Lord had you leave that, and which was probably just after Jesus school. Hey, because I think you were doing that. I think you were working there when you were here in Canada.
Yeah, it was the start of 2020 that I left the prisons. The other thing that happened in that time, and kind of something I don't think I actually just answered your question when you asked about like how does that shape your faith. Something I learnt through this process and through working with people who had done heinous things is the grace of God, but also the justice of God, because these guys knew, like, they had done some horrendous stuff, but they knew their brokenness. And it is only God that can give you compassion for them when you have, you know, heard them talk about their offending or read the case files of their offending, have seen it on them, seen their behaviors, and still you have compassion and grace for that. And that's not to discount all of their risk factors. That's not to discount their capability to reoffend or to do something in that moment. That's not to put them back into, say, a family environment where they could be putting someone else at risk. So you've got to hold all of these things and the big heart of God that he gives us. And I think that when I look back, I think that God had me learn these lessons early. I don't know why. Why would he put a 21-year-old into prison? But anyway, he had me learn these things early for some of the environments that I was going to go into later, and to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and have confidence, have assurance, and have seen the way that the world works, see the depths of depravity, but the depths of grace and mercy and compassion as well. Yeah.
So when you finished there, or when you left that, did you go into politics right away, or was that in government and stuff? There was a period between. Hey,
I mean, kind of did nothing, to be honest. It was 2020, so COVID hit. Terrible time to be quitting your job. Like, what was God thinking? And I had a year earlier, I should be careful what I say here, because maybe some political animal's going to find this podcast and start filtering it out to all the newspapers here about some crazy Christian cult girl. But I essentially just had a word from God that was very clear one day in prayer when I was at Bible college about me being in politics. And I'd never thought about it. I wasn't even sure who I would vote for at that point in time. I'd just gone through I was going through a political conversion myself, from my university days into, I'm a conservative now. So I was a lefty. I was protesting on the streets and, flying the flag on every emotional cause. But, through the prisons and through other things, God has just kindly showed me, I guess he's shown me more about how our society works, and also Christian values and how that can be practically outworked. So all that saying, I'm a conservative now, but I was still going through my political transition at this stage. Transition, that sounds like a bit of a trigger word for many by design. So I knew that this was on the radar, but I hadn't shared this with anybody. And my heart and my mind had changed since God had given me this word. But I was still just doing Bible college, still working in the prisons. And then God tells me to quit my job. I quit my job and nothing happens. I just keep doing Bible college and just having no money to do it, which is not great. But in our second year of Bible college, big thing was about, okay, well, how are you going to take what you have learned here and use it in the world? Because so many people can go through biblical school and teaching and ride the high and get out and not know who they are, not know what their purpose is, not know how to use what they've learned here in the real world and actually make impact and change. So we were looking at that. And so we're looking at our strengths and our dreams and what we felt called to. And that's kind of where I started sharing all of this for the first time, which I was super nervous about. In hindsight, I think that's a bit ridiculous. Like, I just thought everyone was going to laugh at me and think I was a loser for wanting to do politics, which, to be fair, I am. But
you know what? I wouldn't say that. This is what's intrigued me in your faith journey, is because usually, I'm sure Australia is very similar. People don't get into politics till they're old, when they're just like older, right? When they get like me, old as dust now, when you get frustrated. And that's when people seem
fading away before my eyes.
Fading away. But the older I get, the more I understand why it's older people. So when and there are young people that get in too, but it's good, and it's needed because it's the future. So it's not negative.
Oh, you got to be careful too, because as a young person, well, actually, no, I've seen the worst in both young and old in politics. But as a young person, your challenge is to not be proud and not be someone who thinks that they have all the answers, because a lot of people who get involved in politics at a young age have grown up in political movements. So they might be a part of the Young Labor Party or the Young Liberal Party. Sorry, Liberal Party here is the Conservative Party. And so they've kind of almost been molded in this culture of political thinking, where it's us and them, like us against them. It's very tribal, and it's so unhelpful to political discourse and so unhelpful to debate, to have an us and them mentality. I mean, we saw it in COVID. It just became us and them, and all of a sudden these two opposing forces could not come together on anything, couldn't agree on anything. And so you had to choose the black or the white option. So I think that there is a big risk for young people, but the remedy to that is get wise, get mature, get life experience, be teachable, have wise counsel, know the Lord. So you can do it if you're young. But so from there, I shared this with my teachers at Bible college, and they're like, okay, well, here's your project. Go get started in politics, essentially. I was like, what? We're at Bible college. But this opportunity came up in Darwin to go work for Mark Greenwood's best friend, actually, Dave Ridley, who's now just one of my favourite people in the whole world. He was getting started in politics himself. He'd been pastoring a church. He, ran Jesus schools. He founded the Jesus schools. And he was like, I just feel like I'm called into politics. And so we joined forces. We ran a campaign up in Darwin. And it went so badly, Todd, like we just lost so badly. It was humiliating. It was awful. And we really thought that we were going to win by a landslide. Like, we just felt the Lord on it, and we got it so wrong, to be honest. But I can see what God was doing in hindsight. And I remember at the time, our senior pastor had said, this is so good that you learn this now, because in the future, you'll look back and you'll know that this was hard won, and things don't come easy. And I was like, do you know what? Don't even go there. I don't want to hear it. This just sucks. But to be fair, looking back now, she's so right.
And was that just because of not being known? Like, when you first enter politics, nobody knows you, and there's so many people that are so known, right?
I mean, there's heaps of factors to it. Like, it was the first election out of COVID, for starters, in Australia. So we weren't ready for the wave of incumbency to happen across the country. Essentially, people didn't want something they didn't know already. That was going to hit later, where they started throwing out all the elected leaders who had led them through COVID. They were like, anyone but them. Whereas at this point in time, it was like, no, we're still so scared and we want to hold on to what we know. But also there was heaps of flaws in our campaign. And we can do a whole dissection on that, and just some really practical learnings that we needed to take away. And yeah, I guess some divisions that were unhelpful as well. Funding is a really critical part of running election campaigns. So there was a lot of things. We weren't known. We were a new party. And we took some key lessons out of that. But for me personally, one of the key lessons that I took, and this is me getting very political, but I had seen kind of what was happening in COVID and seen the failures of the two big parties in our country. And I was like, well, the answer must not be these two big parties. We need another movement. And so I worked for that other movement and realized the hard way that you actually do need to get in the big leagues if you want to start having an impact. You can't shout from the outside because you're not ever going to be passing legislation. The numbers aren't there. The public support isn't there. So from there, that's where I kind of went down the two big political parties route. And I thought, okay, well, which one of these two do I align with and where are my values at? And I can tell you that now that I am aligned with one of the big parties, it's really hard. That's actually you getting in the arena and fighting the good fight on a cause you believe in with a party that's actually quite broken a lot of the time and not making good decisions a lot of the time. But better for you to be in the mix and having a say and a seat at that table, and trying to reform from within than shouting from the outside and nobody listening to you. So that was my hard lesson.
Yeah. Canada's very similar in that too, right? There's two main parties and then there's some little ones and, they may have good ideas and stuff like that too, but it's the parallels of our countries are very interesting because they're very similar in that, right?
There's a lot of parallel waves, I would say, across the globe at the moment in terms of the left and the right. And what we're seeing in government play out, I think you kind of see the same thing repeated in, 2-3 year blocks across the country, across the world.
Do you know what I heard really recently is actually somebody must have just preached this at our conference or just said this. And I think it's spiritual more than intentional, but they said that the government does what it sees the church do or reacts in the same way. And it's like, wow, that was very interesting. It really resonated with me because the church in our country is divided and the government is divided and the people are divided, right? There's the same division here too. And now I attribute to that, like, to me, that's spiritual. It's not like the government's looking at the church and therefore, you know what I mean? I think it's a spiritual thing, but I found it really fascinating. It really resonated with me.
It is interesting. Some people say that politics is the kind of like the temperature gauge of where your country's at. So what's happening politically in your country is, that thermometer of what is happening in the hearts and minds and spiritual environments of people in the country. And that would extend to the church, I would say. But I think broadly, the question I would have in regards to what you just said is, has the church ever been fully united, or have politicians ever been fully united?
Well, the church was united right after the crucifixion for quite a lot of years.
It's true.
Right.
It's true.
The glory days of the book of Acts. So just to sort of cover both, had you had an opportunity, although you were super young when you were working in those services for the prison, but did you have an opportunity to share your faith either with coworkers in either of those two fields or get asked about it?
Prison's interesting because I worked for a secular nonprofit and also because we were funded by taxpayer money and on government contracts, you can't just talk about your faith. And so I can only talk about it if the other person brings it up. So really great to ask questions of like, are you a spiritual person? Do you feel religiously inclined? Would you like to get involved in anything there? And so from there, often conversations would open up. And I also, like, God was just on it. So he made things happen sometimes where I could talk they would just share really openly and honestly with me about faith, but also spiritual things that they were encountering, mostly bad. And I had a number of things that happened where I just knew the Lord was there. Like this one time, I picked up this guy from prison. I was here in Melbourne, and we're driving home back to his house, and he's like, "Miss," they would always call me Miss, like, "Miss, do you know that Jesus is real?" I was like, "Yeah, I actually do. I am a Christian." He's like, no way, Miss, that's awesome. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, I'm a Christian as well. Like, obviously I've done a lot of bad stuff and, things, I've made some mistakes, but man, I just love the Lord. And he's like, "Oh, my mum's going to be so excited to meet you because she is just praying for me all the time." And anyway, so he's just animated. He's loving this. And I was loving it too. I'm like, this is awesome. So anyway, he's like, "Oh, this is good. I'm actually really glad that you're my case manager. This makes so much sense that you would be my case manager of all the people. That's really good. I'd love to get connected into church now that I'm out, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, so we go home, we meet his mum, I take off, and I'm like, "All right, well, I'll see you at your parole appointment on Monday," because it's the weekend. He has to report into parole first thing Monday morning. Rock up to parole, and his case officer was like, "He hasn't rocked up." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, he's absconded." I was like, "Oh gosh." So I'm calling him. He's not answering. And I'm keeping in contact with this parole officer. The parole officer, like days later, he's like, "Yes, still haven't heard from him. Anyway, 2 weeks goes by and they're like, "We're going to have to put out a warrant for his arrest because he hasn't reported in." I'm like, oh my gosh, this sucks because, this is why I'm in this job, right? I'm in it because I want people to have the best shot at life. I want them to know that they're forgiven and that there's hope and there's redemption. And this guy is just not living in it. He knows it as well, and he's not living in it. And so anyway, he's ignoring me. He's ignoring his parole officer. I'm back in prison like a few weeks later, just seeing some other dudes. And one of the prison officers comes up to me and she's like, "Grace, you're never going to guess who's back." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he came back. He's back in. The cops found him. He obviously got reincarcerated. He's back on remand." And I was like, "All right." It was like 5 o'clock. So I was like, "Okay, first thing tomorrow morning, I'm gonna come and see him." And so I get back into prison the next morning and they're like, "So sorry, you got transferred 5 hours away." I'm like, "What?" Oh my gosh, this is just so crap. So I'm really annoyed. I go home thinking about it. I'm like, God, I just really felt like this is someone that you put on my caseload for a reason. And so the thing is, I have a caseload of about 60 guys, and I can't, you can't adequately case manage 60 people. It's too many. You have to choose who you invest in properly and who you do due diligence for. Like some of these guys aren't ready to change. Or some of them also, don't have a court date for 6 months as well. So that's pretty chill. But anyway, so I was like, this is one I want to invest in, this guy. And so I go back to my manager the next day. I'm like, this is going to sound crazy, but I think you've got to let me go out to this prison, which is like in regional Victoria, like 5-hour drive. And I'm like, she's like, "That is a really long drive. Can you just video link in?" I was like, "I know. I don't think I'm going to ask you for this very often, but I honestly think that if I just get face to face with this guy, it could change his life." She's like, "All right, go." So I head off the next day out to this place called Ararat and head out to the prison there, and they call up this guy. And I'm like, this would be really interesting to see his reaction. And he comes in and he's all like G'd up. He's ready. He's like, "Who's coming to visit me? This is the best." And then he's like, happy as Larry. locks eyes with me, and his whole demeanor just drops, and he like slumps down into the chair, does not lift his eyes off the desk, will not look at me. And I'm trying very hard not to say his name, but anyway, let's call him Brad. I'm like, Brad, you know why I'm here, right? He's like, Miss, I thought I'd never see you again. And I think about you most days because I know I've let you down. And I was like, Brad, this is not my life. This is your life. And you're letting yourself down. That's the truth. Just tell me what happened. And he's like, well, first day I got out, saw Mum, that was great. And then I immediately went off and got a hit, and it was just more than I could handle because I'd been in prison for so long. So I overdosed, but then I was just hooked from there until I don't even know what happened in those weeks. And then the next thing I know, I'm back in. And we just end up having this conversation about his life, what he wanted his life to be, faith. And the faith was, this conviction that he could never shake, even though he was living the exact opposite to what he wanted to live. And he's like, you're never going to guess it, but I get into this prison and my cellmate's a Christian, and we're reading these devotions every day together. And so anyway, I end up getting into a Christian rehab. He does end up getting out, but I take off up to Queensland before I finish on his caseload. But we just, I don't know what happened with him, to be honest. And I pray often for him and hope that he knows the Lord and walks with him in freedom. But it was a lot of seed planting and just watering that seed, letting God do his work, and just being able to eyeball somebody. That's what I found, is that often I would have very short amount of time with these guys, but if they could just look into my eyes and see God in them, then they've had an encounter with God, and I've done my job.
Come on.
So yeah, the eye is the window to the soul.
Yeah. Did you find that it could weigh you down a little bit? Like the sense of, seeing people that sort of like they want the freedom and they maybe almost are convincing you that they're going to have it, and then this happens, it just weighs you down. Hey.
Oh yeah. And so many of these guys are chief manipulators, almost all of them, because that's their survival mode. That's their default, is to manipulate. And so they will often tell you what they think you want to hear. And so you're forever just like testing what they're saying and testing their motives, checking them, because you're just so used to getting manipulated by them. So it's right to expect the worst of them a lot of the time. It just is what it is. But I probably could count on two hands how many successful transitions happened. And that's from hundreds and hundreds of prisoners that I worked with. And that's very sad. And I just remember being really despondent about it one day and just feeling like, God, I'm just here. I'm just here among these broken people. I feel like I'm having no impact. Why am I here? What's the point of this? And I was at this conference at church as I'm kind of having this discussion with God. And they play this weird advert, actually, it wasn't an advert. It was just kind of like a promo for this thing called God TV. And essentially it's just like a Christian TV channel. It plays sermons and things. And then they have this testimonial of this prisoner who's an ex-bikie, and he's like sharing his testimony of how he was sitting in his cell one day watching God TV and wasn't a Christian, and there was this altar call and the Holy Spirit flooded his room, and he came to know the Lord as a result of this, and now walks in freedom with God. He's been out, he's been clean, and, he just lives a disciplined, faithful life unto the Lord. And I just felt God speak to me in that moment. And he's like, that same spirit that they feel when they watch that TV channel, which is, by the way, available in all Queensland prisons. It's like that same spirit that they feel there, they see and they feel when they look into your eyes. So don't underestimate the impact that you have and the spirit that you carry, even when you don't have any words to go along with it. And you're just like, I'd just be talking to them about like sort of drugs they have been using before they got into prison. But that spirit, the spirit of peace that God gives us and joy and life, is something that penetrates even the darkest of stories and the darkest of conversations.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And wisdom, because you have a lot of wisdom, my friend.
Thank you.
A lot of wisdom.
The Bible says, if you want wisdom, get wisdom. So we might as well do that.
Grace, now you've transitioned again. You're working in the corporate world, but I really wanted to leave some time to talk about your podcast, because you're also doing a podcast. So what inspired you to do? Here's your pitch.
Okay.
For the vast global podcast audience, what is your what inspired you to do your podcast, and tell us the name and talk about that.
All right. Okay, so I'm now a podcaster, which is ridiculous. I'm not a Toddcaster, but I am a podcaster. So it's called The Leftovers Table, which is a bit in jest. So it's a podcast for single girls. Look, honestly, if you're a male, you're welcome along as well. I'm sure you might find a few interesting things. But essentially, there are a lot of single Christian girls out there who it's really hard. I'm 29. I'm still single, and I've lived most of my adult life as a single person, and it has been a hard journey. Like, it's hard to not live out your first choice. I think I was ready to get married when I was, say, 15. I mean, I wasn't about to do that. Let's just cool your jets. But, I think as women, we were just kind of ready early, whereas guys probably take a little bit longer to come to the party. But that's a long journey of just living in not your first preference. And so our podcast is all about how to live a life that you love when you're not living out your first choice. And remembering that we're actually looking for our second love. We're not looking for our first love. We already found that. And he is everything. He is satisfying. He is good. And he does make the journey worth it. And so I'm doing it. My co-host is my beautiful friend, Tara, and she's such a legend. She got married when she was 38 and had her first baby at 40. And so she just has, although she's graduated out of this one, she has skin in the game, and she has such a deep heart for the Christian girlies out there who are going through the same thing. So we have a lot of guests on our show. We have those who are, in my boat and have never been married. We have those who have found themselves single again after marriage. But in the thread through all of these stories are people who just love the Lord and have found a way to build a life that they love when they're going through heartache and going through the disappointment of their life not going the way that they would have wanted it to go. So, in a world of Christian culture where we, champion family, we champion marriage, as we should, and at the end of the day, that's what our hearts are desiring. When you don't live in that and you live in a culture that constantly champions that, it's so easy to feel on the outer. It's so easy to feel like you don't belong, and it's so easy to feel like you are second best or you're not as qualified as others. But I guess this podcast is all about providing hope and also just having a super honest conversation, because for those of us who've been through this for a while, you know that the last thing that you probably are looking for is advice. You just kind of want a place to belong and people to connect with, and I guess have a crew that just get it, but have a laugh along the way. So the leftovers table, the word kind of comes from, I don't know if you would have had this experience, Todd, but at a wedding, how at the reception, you get put on your dinner tables, and there's always this one table of like the leftovers. Like, we didn't know where to put these people. There's a lot of single people. Sometimes there's kids on there, and you just kind of like shoved up in the corner. So it's a bit in jest. We all know that feeling.
I've been there.
It. Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Probably by choice. You probably want to go hang out with the kids. But maybe it's a matchmaking table sometimes. I'm sure that there's an ulterior motive in a lot of cases, but it's not the funnest place to be, but
it can be. Some would say that's the best table to be at. It depends.
It depends on the wedding.
Depends who's there in the
I've
wedding.
been on some great ones and I've been on some doozies.
Yeah.
Some can be hard going.
You'll have to message me the link, and I'll put the link in the description here.
Yeah.
We'll have that in there for everyone. That's awesome.
Will do. It's a good listen. It's also a good laugh.
Yeah.
I don't know how to not have laughs in life. It's life. That's what life to the full is for me. So if we were going to do this, it wasn't going to be like a sob story. It was going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, and it's good that you did have that. That you can do that after stuff that you've been through at a very young age. Just recapping that in the prison, being so young and hearing about crimes you never would have even imagined in your head and stuff. That's a very great story. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us today.
Oh, easy, Todd. I'd always do this for you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Grace, I have one more question for you, my friend.
All right, hit me. Uh-oh.
Knowing everything that you know now, and you're out of that prison system, if somebody, say a young girl, 21 years old as you were, that reached out to you through your podcast, say, and was going into work and case managing in the prison system, but just like as you would be, right, full of energy and thinking that you're gonna go in there and just help so many people and stuff, what advice would you give them to maintain their faith and give them a proper expectation of what that was going to look like?
I would say know the Lord first. Read his word. Read about the people that he dealt with, the people that are in the Bible. There is some heinous stuff in the Bible. There is a lot of depravity in the Bible. And remember that is what God came back to restore and to bring freedom to. And that's ultimately what our mission is. It's to bring freedom into some really dark places. And if those places are going to be really dark, we can expect them to be really hard. So if we want to see freedom brought to people, it means that we have to jump into something that's ugly and twisted and sometimes perverted, but don't do it without the Lord, because that's, by the grace of God, we are what we are and we do what we do. So stay close to him, take everything that is hard to him and take all the triumphs to him as well, and do it with people. Do it with wise Christian friends, because they were the people who were there for me at the end of a hard day. They were the people that, encouraged me to keep going and prayed with me for these guys. So that would be my advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today, my friend.
Thanks, Todd. I love you. Appreciate
you. Yeah, love you, man. Grace.
Mate. We call our girls in this country a Sheila. You could try that one. But that's your producer's name, so
might not work.
Might not work. Might not translate.
Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure.
That was a great story of compassion and wisdom, of just wanting to help people get set free and see who they really are in him. Check out the leftovers tables, my friend, and we'll see you next week.